How's it going, Travian?
It's going good.
Just, what has, or I guess, how good did it feel to be fully cleared and finally back on the field after last summer and a long off season?
With everything that happened to me last summer, like I said, we take things for granted, but, to be back on my feet and coaching again, it feels good because when I was in the accident, the first thing I asked the doctor that was helping me, when can I walk again? The first time I woke up from my first surgery, the first thing I asked him, when can I get back to work? So to know that, we got great doctors and great, support staff and everything that can help me get healthy and come back on time, it felt great just to know that at the time, because sometimes I wake up and it's like surprising I'm able to do what I'm doing. So it's a blessing to be able to be back with my guys and be back with the team.
How pleased were you last season as you were watching your guys with the results you got out of them, and Dove and Coach Walker got out of them?
It was hard for me because I'm very passionate about this program. I'm very passionate about coaching, so it was hard to watch. But I think I texted Coach Beamer, or I actually said it to him. I can't remember, but I'm a big believer of suffering equals success, and just to know that we was going through hard times and we were suffering last year. That the only thing I could think of, just the things positive coming towards, that was coming for us. So I started it off with my accident and having bad things to happen to me right before the season. And then just to see everything that happened to us, the whole entire time I was thinking about the future. I was thinking about 2026, and I was like, we're going to be better just because of all the hard times that we're going through now. So I hope that everyone in this program learned from it. I hope everyone understand that you got to go through hard times, and we was the team that went through it, starting with me. And it was hard, but just knowing that, suffering equals success, that we was going to do everything we can to be successful this year. And so just to see what Coach Beamer has done with the staff and see what we've done with our roster, things are moving in the right direction so far.
Travian, I'll echo Coach Fink and say it's great to see you back up here.
Thank you.
How difficult was it for you just to kind of mentally get past the accident and everything that was involved? Because it seemed like there's a lot of mental and physical challenges for you.
For me, it was my main focus was, I had to remind myself and I had to remind everyone else that I was a father and a husband before I ever became a coach. And so, to think about just getting back to work, it would be selfish of me. So my main focus during the accidents was just getting back to my family, because that was one thing that I always tell my players, that the ultimate thing that we try to do is just make it home to our family. So that night I was not able to make it home. And so I had to really, as hard as it was, really drop everything that dealt with my career and just focus on getting healthy, focus on just going back to my family. So that part was hard because, like I said, you have so much passion for the Gamecocks, and I have so much passion for the state that I knew that I had to rely on my family and my faith during that time. And that's what I just buckled down to. And I tapped into, my career every now and then when I felt like it. But my most important thing was health and family during that time.
Hey, Travian, I guess can you kind of take us through those couple weeks of how long were you in the hospital, and how many different surgeries did you have to undergo before you could get out?
If I can remember, I was in the hospital for a total, I think, 12 to 14 days. I think I had a total of 6 total surgeries. And then I was supposed to technically have everything done in 2 weeks, but the surgery was so bad, it was so bad that they recommended me to go to a rehab center. But with me, I wanted to be with my family, and I knew I was going to rehab the way I was supposed to. And so I decided to do my rehab at home instead of going to a facility every day, which it worked out for me because of the shape that I was in. I didn't feel like getting in and out of the car, so just being at home. So I was, it was about 3 months where I was non-weight bearing. I couldn't walk, I couldn't do anything. Yeah, I had a lot of lower body, so I felt just to not to go into ins and outs, but when you have your foundation, you can't walk, and then your core, you can imagine that I was pretty just sitting there, just sitting there for 3 months, and eventually my natural instincts of just being a hard worker just kicked in while I was in the hospital, because my body was still scheduled to wake up at 5:30 in the morning to work out. So I was told not to lift no more than 5 pounds, but I called Clint and I told him give me some Gatorades, and I started lifting Gatorade bottles. But it was hard, but I think I was prepared for it because all the things that I've went through. I always told my players that, being in the trenches, every day we make contact. It's almost like being in a little fender bender accident, but that was a major accident. So I think I just worked hard, and remember I had 2 ACL surgeries, and remember all the hard process that it takes to get through that. And so I just buckled down and rehabbed the best way I can so I can get back as quick as I could.
What do you remember about being back at the facility for the first time after everything? I'm sure that was emotional for you. And just what do things look like for you now in terms of like how much are you able to do?
Obviously, for me, I'll never forget the first time I wanted to come out of the facility. I had a doctor's appointment, and then I just told my wife, I said, man, just drive me by. Just let me go by. And I texted the guys. I was like, hey, man, I cannot come inside, but I would love to see y'all. And so just to have the entire staff, to come out to the car and greet me at the car, it just motivated me to do more. And so from then, I remember just driving by and having everyone to see me and didn't have the energy to get out. And so the next week, it just motivated me to do more. And so I told my wife, I was like, look, I want to go up there and be a part of it now. And so it was just for me, man, just knowing that I was going through a lot of hard problems and the team was going through a lot of hard things, that we were still a family. And just to see that when I walked in the building, they just erased everything. And they was like, hey, let's go love on Travian. Let's go love on T-Rob. And that mean a lot to me, because you can be a selfish in this business. You can be selfish and work and focus on wins and loss. But that made me feel a lot special because I felt alone during that time. And I felt like I was the only one dealing with it, but knowing that, hey, they showed me they was missing me. So I felt really good, and it just motivated me to come up here even more. And so it went from 1 day, and then 2 days, and then my wife was like, oh, all right, we got to slow it down. So it just motivated me to get back to them and help them out.
When you're going from surgery to surgery and staying in the hospital, did any doubts ever creep in that life just might never be the same?
Initially, yeah. And then I just relied on my faith. Honestly, I tell the story that when they laid me on the stretcher, when I finally got out of the car, I don't know what it was, but it came over me that I was going to be all right. And so, like I said, I just relied on my faith and trusted the doctors at the time. And everything that they told me it happened. It wasn't one thing where they'd tell me, hey, if we do this, this may happen. It was like, we do this and you do everything you're supposed to do, this will happen. So I just relied on faith and never thought about the negatives of what would come. I just felt that God had me, and I just went with that, honestly. Because I'm a big, I learned this from old staff, Willie Fritz, and he always told us positive, stay positive, and negative, stay negative. And I had to remind myself of that in the hospital. So if I have ever dealt with anything negative in the hospital, I try to turn it into something positive, because if I stay negative, it will become a negative situation. And so the whole accident was negative. I try my best to make every day a positive day for me.
Do you sense that your players that you work with every day use you as an inspirational story? When they're hurting, when they're hot, when they're tired, they look at you and you inspire them. And do you want to be an inspirational story? Do you like the idea of your story becoming inspirational?
I mean, that's a great question. You never really want to go through those hard times just to be a story, but I think that God used me just to be that story for them. I don't wake up and say, hey, give me something so I could be an inspirational story. I don't want to go through that, but I do feel like I do believe that I was used in that way just to, whatever God purposed for me, I use it in that way. And I do believe that they love me and they respect me, to know that, I went through something and they can use my story to help them to life. But I don't wake up and say, hey, give me something so I can use that as a inspiration for the guys. But I do take it. It's very important to me that I stand strong for things that's happening in life other than football, so they can see that, you know, we are human beings and we all go through things, and you know, everything ain't gonna be peaches and cream, and we have to figure it out. So I thank God that He gave me the strength that I can show them, hey, things may not be good right now, but if you follow the process, it'll happen for you. So just having them around, they motivated me a lot. They came to the hospital, they came and visit me, and they understand that life will happen, and you know, it takes a family. So I appreciate them a lot because, you know, they wasn't expecting it like I was, and they, you know, they loved on me and they cared for me. They called my wife, and it was just like the whole community came together to help me. So I really do appreciate that out of them.
You mentioned so many times, you know, how your faith has impacted you through this. I'm curious how that translates as you probably are going through the process of forgiveness. What has that been like?
That's a great question, because my brother, all my family is asking me how I felt. And to me, I just forgive with love. I knew I could not move on and be at peace, because you never know what people are going through. And so immediately, and I told a lot of people couldn't understand this because a lot of people had hate because it happened to me. But I explained to my brother as he was spending time in the hospital, I said immediately I had to find a way to forgive because I had no idea what was going on. And all I know is it was an accident and heard the results. And so I was just glad that I was alive and to be able to forgive. So immediately I told my brother, I was like, I forgave him. He was telling me, he said, man, I'm angry right now, I'm angry. And I was like, look, man, I said, if you can't say you forgive and you still hate. And so I explained to him, I said that in order for me to move on and be at peace with this, I had to immediately forgive with love. And I was at peace. I was at the point now, let's just get me healthy so I can get back to work, because I immediately knew what I had to do to move in a right direction. If it was different, if I had a lot of hate with my forgiveness, I would not be standing here right now talking to y'all, because I would be dealing with a lot. So I knew what I wanted to do in life. I knew that it was an accident, and I knew God had me. So I was like, let me forgive and move on. So that was important that I did that in order for me to be here today.
With the type of season Nick Barrett had last year and the position he's got himself in now, how do you think about how far along he came with deciding to redshirt and then putting the type of season together that he did?
That was important to me, and I immediately thought about that because the conversation me and Nick had when it came to him making that decision to redshirt to come back, I was sitting there thinking, I was like, man, this would be very important for us, because Nick was a leader for us last year. And when I got in the accident, he called me every Sunday. Like, we play on Saturdays, me and Nick have a 45 to an hour conversation. And my message to Nick was he was prepared for it. It was like, Coach, I wanted to finish my senior season with you coaching me. And I'm like, Nick, you're prepared and you're ready. And I said, I know you feel like you're alone doing this because I'm not here, but I was like, you're ready. And so just to see him and to watch what he did, I really, really appreciate him because it was hard knowing that, hey, you know, I stayed because I want to be coached by you, Coach, and finish my last season, and all of a sudden you're not here with me. And so that was hard for me, knowing that me and him had that conversation. But the biggest thing I appreciate about him, and me and his dad had this conversation, that he graduated. And so to go through all those phases, and, you know, I really hate that we did not send him off with a winning season. But Nick grew as a young man. He grew as a player. And I think that it set him up for the NFL, and I think he's going to be a really, really good player for a long time.
You lost a few key guys off of last year's team, bring back a couple of key guys from last year's team. What was the key for you in getting guys out of the portal? What were the main things you were looking for, and what have you seen so far out of Jordan, Tomowa, and Kelby?
For me, is, you know, when we replace guys, it's hard to replace a lot of guys in this conference with everybody's chasing the same size, everybody chasing the same speed and same twitchiness. So for me, I wanted someone that loved the game. I wanted someone that came in to be a leader because of, when you have a season you have and you're trying to come back and do better season, you need leadership. So we wanted guys with experience and understood that, we wanted to win. So I think that we handpicked our D linemen that we got with Jordan, Kelby, and Tommy. And so far, those guys have been great. They adjusting real well. They're doing a really good job with nutrition. They're doing a really good job in the weight room. And now we're practicing on the field. So I've seen a lot of good things out of them so far. Really like them. Obviously, they're still adjusting to playbooks and stuff, but so far it's been good with those guys.
Obviously the high school recruiting aspect was big for you guys with
Right.
that 26 class, and now that you have Aiden and Noah, I'm sure they've obviously got a real long way to go.
Right.
But what have you seen so far from those guys?
Those guys have been working hard. Like I said, they wanted to be here. We've been recruiting Aiden and Noah for a long time now, and it wasn't a really hard battle with them because they wanted to be here. They wasn't chasing anything but development. They was chasing relationships, so that made it easier for us to recruit them. And so now we coaching them and everything. Obviously, they're making freshman mistakes, but they're good guys. They're showing up on time. They're doing what they're supposed to do, and they've been a sponge. They're just soaking everything in right now. Noah is one of our biggest freshmen we signed in a long time. He's fast. He's strong. He's physical. He's given us an Aiden. He's a twitchy guy that loves to play football. He has it in his pedigree. But right now, they're all making freshman mistakes, which we expect. But so far, so good. So far, we are very impressed with what they're doing. Very impressed. So a lot of growing to do, a lot of stuff, but they're not far off. They're really right where they need to be in the spring. So I'm very glad we got them in the spring and not the summer.
Troy played a fair amount of snaps for you guys last year. I'd imagine you wanted him to take on a bigger role this year. What are some of the things that you've been working on with him to get him to kind of take the next step?
Right. Each year, not just with Troy, each year we never want a guy to stay in the same. We either want them, we want them to get better. So with Troy being an older guy now, he spent this first year in the SEC. Our expectations for him to, just to be better at everything he does. He has the skill set to be a really good player. So he has to do everything off the field and everything on the field. But our expectation for all our guys is to get better every day. So not just with Troy, but all our guys, we expected them to all get better.
Then with Gabe, and obviously he didn't get a ton of reps at his previous stop. How beneficial do you think it was for him to be able to get on the field and play more?
Gabe, his situation, we all know he came from A&M, and they had a loaded roster at the time. And so the opportunity that he had here, and like Coach Beamer always talk about, we don't promise any guys anything. We promise them an opportunity. And I think the biggest thing for Gabe is he took advantage of the opportunity. We knew he was strong. We knew he had everything we wanted in a player. But like I said, sometimes guys get lost in the sauce with a loaded roster. And he's just free. I feel like he's free. He can play the way he really want to play. He's played a lot of ball last year. So we expected him to step up and, lead this place better than what he found it.
Transitioning from Coach Lucas to Coach Barnes over there, defensive end, and kind of working together, how's that gone, and what are you seeing from him and what he brings to the position?
It's been great. Every year we may have a, coaching change, and, Coach went off and did what he had to do for what's best for his family. But I can tell you this, when I got the phone call from Coach Beamer to say that we was hiring Deion Barnes, I was excited because the first thing he said, he reminded me of you. So I was excited because I know how hard I coach, and I know how what it takes to play in the trenches in the SEC. So to hear that I was having someone that I was going to be coaching by that was reminding me of me, I was excited. And so far, working with him, man, he's great. He brings a lot of energy. He knows the position. He played the position himself. He's very demanding so far. So I love coaching with him. It's been great since he's been here. Thank y'all. Mhm.